just about set up here, guys. All right. Pontificator's a little messed up. Let's fix that. All right. Time zone, please? What's going on with the time zone? Alright, guys. Was that spoiler-free? Yes. Yes, it was. It was definitely spoiler-free. Music rating. Music was really good in this game. There was a few tracks in the dungeons that I didn't like too much, but for the most part, the dungeon music was really good. Town music was good. The random music for like different parts in the game with story and things like that was really, really solid. There's definitely a lot of tracks on this that I'd like to listen to again and would definitely put on a list of mine. I would not say it's like the best stuff I've heard in a game. I feel like there are a few moments in it that the emotion carried over because of the actual music and stuff like that, and that's super important to me when music makes something better. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the music an 8. Yep, you guys are on par with me there. Graphics, I don't know how great the graphics are for the 3DS. I haven't played a crap ton of 3DS games. I would say that the graphics were kind of like okay. The Pokemon looked a little goofy here and there, especially when they were trying to do poses and stuff like that. They looked very silly. This is the most active you really ever see Pokemon in a Pokemon game, I feel, except for like now with Pokemon Let's Go and stuff like that. They weren't so mobile or doing that many things other than walking or running and occasionally doing like an attack animation of some kind, which is basically the body leaning forward or doing something else. Some of them more in depth than others. So I would say that the graphics were kind of lacking, but that's not really important in a roguelike game in general when you're going to be doing dungeon crawling. And the graphics were okay where it mattered when it was trying to tell a story and stuff like that. So I'll go ahead and give that, I'll say it's a solid 7 for the 3DS. It's not bad. I'm leaning between a 6 and a 7, and I don't mind rounding up because there's definitely moments with like the portraits and stuff like that that were really well done as well. It didn't really have anything in the way of attack animations and stuff, but again, it's a roguelike, so that's really all there is to it. Final music was bad, Snowflake Boy was weak, and so was the music. Yeah, that's definitely a problem. The final boss music could have been worse, though. I've definitely heard worse. Story rating, the story was definitely really corny. It was sweet, and it was genuine, and that's always nice. I feel like there's a lot of people that could have played this and got something out of it, and that's something that's always special. There's nothing incredible about it by any means. Yeah, there is definitely a lot of dialogue. I don't really like the pacing of the story. I don't like how you're going through dungeons very quickly and there's not a whole lot going on, and then all of a sudden it just becomes this like huge double set of dungeon tracks back to back. That kind of bothered me a little bit, and it definitely killed the pacing of the story. Then it felt like it was all like pushed in right there at the end in the final dungeon. I would have appreciated that if it was done a little bit better. Yeah, it definitely starts out slow. I would say that the story is probably the weakest factor for me with this game. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 6, and I'm giving it a 6 mostly because it definitely got me emotional and stuff like that at the end. Yeah, that part I wasn't so much expecting, I gotta be honest, but then when it happened, it kind of became a little obvious and cliche, but, you know, it was still okay. It caught me off guard. I like that. I like when games can do that. Mechanics rating. Okay, So I haven't played very many roguelikes, and I have not played one in a long time. I would say that this is pretty straightforward when it comes to roguelikes, with some Pokemon-esque things like seeds and berries and things like that. It's very straightforward. I don't like the fact that my Pokemon didn't evolve. That really bothered me. I don't know if that was a story thing or if you actually can't evolve Pokemon, but there was definitely evolved Pokemon in the game. You learn your attacks, but there's no real way of knowing how useful an attack is going to be. You would think debuffs would be really solid for bosses and stuff like that, and they probably are, but the thing about it is most of the boss fights, if you're gonna lose, you're probably gonna lose in 1 to 2 turns. You're not gonna have the opportunity to just sit there and buff and debuff and do all this other type of stuff, and by the time you would do that, you probably would have killed it by straight up doing damage. So I would say a lot of attacks felt kinda useless. Maybe I had a little bit of an easier time with Axu because he did lots and lots of damage with that dual chop. Like it was honestly really strong. And since I used it for the longest time, it just got stronger and stronger and stronger, and that was a fun mechanic, I think, being able to level up attacks like that. I did not like how you had to do requests to progress the story. It just felt really detached. Even though the requests were really quick, it's just like, oh, go do a random thing for the day so that the story progresses. It was kind of detached there, but that's more of a mechanic thing. I would also say that the building the town and stuff like that's not so much for me. I don't enjoy doing things like that. So it being a big part of like everything that was taught to you and stuff like that was also killed the pace of the game for me. Yeah, I guess when it comes down to it, the mechanics of the dungeon crawling were solid. They were just fine. They were where they need to be. The mechanics of like kind of other stuff that was going on in the game, I could have done without. I'm gonna actually give the mechanics a 4. They're not bad. They were pretty easy. I would like to see a lot of different changes and a lot less fluff type stuff. But still, it's definitely a game that was easy to sit down and play. Let's talk about 1 or 2 frustrating things. Status effects are annoying in every game. In this game, they are very, very, very annoying. Particularly Confuse is probably the most frustrating one because you just completely lose control of your character. Now, I understand you can come prepped with items, you can get all that type of stuff set up and things like that, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating. Being prepared for something's all well and good, but it's still a frustrating thing to deal with. And the monster house rooms, those were stupid, completely stupid. I started to think like, oh, there's 3 items in a room. That's probably a monster room, but it wasn't always a monster room. You couldn't tell until you walked in it 9 times out of 10. And really all it comes down to is if you have an item that can put them into some type of debuff, you win. If you don't have one, good luck getting through it. Those monster rooms were just ridiculous. And there was a couple other really crappy RNG things, but I guess those are kind of roguelike in general. Roguelikes always have some type of RNG stuff that gets really frustrating and annoying. There was just, like, the one thing where being in there with, being in the one dungeon with Hydrogen, and yes, I'm going to keep calling him Hydrogen, and stepping into it, and as soon as I stepped into the room, being teleported to the entire other side of the dungeon while he was stuck in there trying to fight all the Pokemon in a monster house. Like, what the crap is that? At that point in time, the game is basically saying, you gotta have that one berry or that one orb in your inventory to make him come back, and I think stuff like that's really silly. Having one item to take care of one particular situation that's going to show up. Grinding rating. I would say that doing the requests were a bit of a grind. They were a lot of the same thing, going through a lot of the same areas. But I would feel like, I don't want to say you really had to grind in this game. It was very much just a roguelike, a mystery dungeon game. Yeah, but I mean, mystery dungeon is what the game is, ultimately. I mean, it's something that'll probably carry over to some of the other games for me as well, but they're still a part of this particular game. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how necessary grinding is. I feel like if you wanted to do a lot of the extra stuff and build your town, you were going to have to do a lot more requests, and you were going to have to go through a lot of the same dungeons and stuff like that, and it would have become more of a grind. But you definitely have to do enough requests to actually get through the game in the first place. But I never really felt like the dungeons, other than the one before the last one, I guess. The last one wasn't quite as bad as I was expecting. That dungeon was a slog. It was literally, you're going through 15 floors almost every dungeon, and it's just, you get to the end, you get a tiny bit of plot, and then you're doing it again. And the dungeons aren't significantly different. There was no real thing other than traps and stuff like that happened, like different traps and different Pokemon that were actually going on in the dungeons. I would have liked to see like little effects of things, like, I don't know, like a lava pit somewhere or something like that, where the Pokemon could turn something to ice and you could go on platform over it, or like move differently and things like that, or the actual abilities that enemies were doing just having an effect on the environment in some way, or the environment actually being more catered towards the Pokemon that were in them. There were some instances of that being the case, but there was a lot of instances where I just felt like the Pokemon in the areas didn't completely make sense. But I have a limited knowledge of Pokemon, so... the game also, you would think it moves pretty slow, but it can move pretty fast as well. And if you have a lot of RNG in your favor, you could blow through this game very, very quickly, doing a tiny bit of grinding. So I guess I'll give the grinding rating about a 7. I honestly don't think it's necessary, but depending on what you want to do in the game, it might be. Alright, let me get a calculator out, guys, and do the math on what you guys rated it before I give you my rating. And a lot of people also think that I tend to average my ratings based on just my other scores here, because that tends to be what people do in most cases, but that's not exactly what I do. What I like to do is I base my rating on how willing I am to recommend a game to somebody. If I'm really, really likely to recommend the game to somebody, then it's going to get a higher rating, even if there was aspects that I know as a whole, if I think about them objectively, aren't super appealing. They might just be more so appealing to me. So I can understand people looking at my ratings and thinking like, oh man, you rated this really, really low. You rated this really, really high, different than I expected, or things like that. And like I said, it's all based on how willing I am to recommend it. Alright, you guys gave it a 6.5, which we're gonna round... Oh, no, we'll leave it to a 6.5. It's like a 6.57, but we'll round it down. If it was 6.7 or so, I would have rounded up to a 7. And I don't round mine as well, so it's always a little bit different. Yeah. So, if you like Pokemon and you're willing to give it the mystery dungeon style type game a try, this is definitely the game for you. If you've not played one before, it might be a little bit of a learning curve. And if you're super into Pokemon, it probably won't matter, because it's going to have just enough of what you like about Pokemon as a whole, or just the Pokemon in general, that it's going to be worth a play for you. It's definitely not going to be something that you're going to tell all of your friends about story-wise and things like that. In fact, it's more of a game that I feel like you would talk about particular parts and stuff, especially if someone wasn't willing to play it themselves. You would probably talk about a particular few things that happened in the game. It's not a super memorable story overall, but it definitely has some memorable feelings in it, and some genuine moments, and a lot of heart, and that's important to me too. So if I was going to recommend this game to somebody, it would definitely have to be people that like Pokemon, because I feel like there are better mystery dungeon-esque games, with maybe a better aesthetic and things like that. But I think those games are more serious, and the tone is completely different. And this game just kind of does what it has to do with the tone of the game. And that's good. That's great. I'm kind of on the fence of between giving it like I'm at like a 6, close to 6.5, maybe like a 7 overall on how willing I would be able to recommend it to people. there was definitely a lot of things that I would change and fix to make it more approachable for people, I feel. And I feel like the game starts off a bit too slow that even if I did recommend it to a bunch of people, they probably wouldn't get too far and get to the points that are like really, really well done. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 6, I feel. Definitely a solid game. I enjoyed it. I probably won't play it again. But if I knew somebody that was into Pokemon or somebody that was into roguelikes, yeah, I'd absolutely recommend this game. I'd be more willing to recommend some others potentially first, but this was a really good game, guys. It would be a lot of fun to play if you're into Pokemon. And I am, obviously. Alright, so, replay. Probably not. But I am curious to see what the endgame content is. I just don't know that I'll do it myself. And date completed, it is now the 5th of January, 2019. First game we beat of the year. 23 hours, 17 minutes, 14 seconds. Alright. Again, a game that I feel like the people that I could recommend it to are a part of a smaller crowd. Hence, it being a 6 more than anything else. It's not a game that I would say that I feel everyone should play, per se. But there's definitely a lot of people that would enjoy this game. And if you picked it up and things like that, I don't think you'd be disappointed. Even if it's a series you haven't played before, or a style of game you haven't played before. It's just got a lot of character to it. And it's very cute. And that's saying a lot. Man, I wish things were not lagging. Yeah, if you like Pokemon, give it a shot. If it ends up not being your thing, then it's not your thing. Go ahead and mark this a while. Alright, I think you guys have listened to me talk long enough. For those of you that have been here for a while, you know what time it is. It is Raffle time. This is a time where if you want to take a chance at picking the next game that I play, all you have to do is type in the word Raffle. That's as simple as that. Nothing special. Just type in that word and it'll enter you in a chance to win and pick the next game that I play. Even if you tend to lurk more often than not, absolutely fine. Step out of lurking for a second, type in the word, and wait to see whether you get picked or not. This is how we pick every game going forward. Currently, the next game is Kingdom Hearts, and then after that, whoever wins and picks this game, that'll be the next game. Well, a lot of people do lurk, and I lurk most of the time when I'm in stream. I don't very often talk a lot in any of the streams that I watch, so I don't like to call people out. But at the same time, I feel like if you're here to watch games, I'm not going to call you out specifically, but don't feel bad if you haven't said anything else in chat and you type the word Raffle. Honestly, give it a shot. Everyone has an equal chance to winning. Yeah, they are great as background noise. So one more thing, Nightbot is also entered in the chance to win the raffle. If Nightbot wins, I will create a list of 5 games, and then you guys as a group, as a JRPG community, get to vote on which game that I play. So that's something that I would post in the Discord, and we'd give it a few days for you guys to actually pick and get your votes and stuff like that in. And it would take me about a day to find the games that I'd actually want to put on there. But it would be between 5, and you guys would get the pick. It's not going to be Kingdom Hearts completely. Yeah, Hydrogen. Hydrogen, best Pokemans. Alright guys, I've been streaming for a while, so I'm not going to make you guys wait any longer. Good luck, everyone. 3, 2, 1, go. Duism! Congratulations! Congrats, man! Do you have a game in mind? Do you need a little bit of time? Rigged! Not rigged! No one's ever said that before. Jago abusing his mod privileges. Persona Q. Alright. There's only one of those out, right? Ugh. Is that really a game though? Persona Q? P3 path preferably? I don't know what that means. I don't know anything about the game. So... Oh yeah, Jago? Well, that's definitely something you've wanted me to do for a long time. Yeah, I know that it's the Persona Dungeon Crawler. I know that, but I don't know anything else about it. I don't know if it's, like, all the Persona characters in it, or if it's just some. So is it gonna be, it's gonna be potential spoilers for Persona 3 is what you're saying? It's not gonna be, like, game-breaking spoilers, is it? And if so... we'll figure something out. Persona Q? I don't know. Why would it not count as a separate game? Again, I don't know a whole lot about it, but it is definitely a JRPG. If it's got its own story, then it's a separate game. Alright, first time played. Absolutely first time played. Spin-off of a spin-off. Alright, so next is Kingdom Hearts. We will probably start that tomorrow. And then after that, we'll start Persona Q. I have to pick that one up first, because I do not have it myself. Alright guys, and thanks again for sticking around. There is one more thing we do, however. We finished the game. That's fine, Deformed. There's one more thing we do. Whenever we finish a game, we send a raid in someone's general direction. And there is, we always try to say something from the game. Something from the game that we just beat. Whether the person knows what it's from or not or anything like that, that's besides the point. But something that was fun for us. A meme. Something like that. I think Don't Give Up. Yeah, let's spam somebody with Don't Give Up. What do you guys say? I think that works perfectly since we just did that. So get your Don't Gives Up ready. Say whatever you want to say. Spam whatever emotes you want to spam or anything like that. I think Jago's got a good one there. I think that's a really good one, actually. I will do that one as well with those emotes. If I could actually copy paste here. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to host Serium. He's doing some speedruns right now, so that's a perfect person to say Don't Give Up to. Alright? I want to see his chat taken over for a while, guys, if you don't mind. Spam your Don't Give Ups. Yeah, he doesn't have these emotes in chat, but I know what they are. Alright guys, stop by, wish Serium some luck. I will see you guys later today for some Kingdom Hearts. Not sure how long we'll stream. We'll see how it goes. And thanks again for spending your night with me. I really appreciate it. Have a good one, guys.